to HR on the Mat. I'm Courtney Scott with Balance and Harmony Yoga, and I've got Miss Peggy Hogan with me with Purple Ink, and we happen to be at
we are at the Ink Pad in Carmel, Indiana.
And we're excited for our special guest today. Greg, do you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Sure. Happy to be here today. Thank you. My name is Greg Odle, and I am co-owner of Baptiste Power Yoga Indianapolis. I also am a father of two boys, 14 and 11, and I'm also an executive of an orthopedic device company.
So, Greg, the first question we ask all of our guests is, tell us about your yoga journey.
Yeah, so that started 8 years ago, and Cindy and I, my wife, were living in Fort Wayne at the time, and we were invited to a dinner party up the street, and there were 4 couples there, and one of the couples happened to be owners of a Baptiste studio in Fort Wayne. And I was sort of curious about yoga. I'd always worked out, but I'd never really done yoga.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was curious about what they were saying about yoga, and they said that they had an early 6 a.m. Monday class that appealed to me because I had generally have to work out early in the mornings, and I was commuting to my job at the time. And so I told them, I said, well, I'll show up on Monday and take part in this class. And so 6 o'clock a.m. power yoga class, and it absolutely kicked my butt. It was one of the hardest workouts I'd ever had. I was pouring sweat from every pore in my body. It was difficult. It was again, one of the toughest workouts I'd had, but at that point in time, it broke every myth that I had about yoga. It also helped that there were 3 other guys in the class that I could relate to. And so just seeing that, wow, this is a real workout. This isn't just coming in for a nice little stretch.
Yeah.
This is intense. And so there's obviously different forms of yoga, and power yoga is what I really related to. And so I just kept going, and ultimately I just kept getting stronger and stronger, and certainly flexibility. What I tell my friends about this, and people that I know, especially guys, is that it's the only form of exercise I've ever done where I feel like I get stronger every year. Like, I can honestly say that since I started, I was 43 years old, and every year I get stronger. And when you're middle-aged and you're getting stronger every year, you know, that's pretty good. And it's so full body in terms of the workout. So I feel like I'm working absolutely every muscle in my body, but then there's also certainly benefits of the mindfulness side of it as well, which can be very helpful.
Yeah. So a lot of our audience are professionals, and we spend a lot of time in HR on the Mat talking about the parallels between your yoga mat and your work life. So do you mind sharing, as an executive and 8 years into your yoga journey, where have you seen the greatest parallels?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, one of the things I was taught early on, especially like with some of the Baptiste methodology, is that what stops you on your mat also stops you in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like noticing where, if, say, you know, a certain pose is coming up that is either hard for you, or whether it's a strength thing or a flexibility thing, or I'm going to look stupid thing, that, you know, you get in your head about, oh crap, that pose is coming up. I'm not good at that. I'm not strong enough for that. I'm not flexible enough.
Yep.
the wheel.
Yeah, the wheel, right.
For me.
Peggy hates the wheel.
But, you know, I started to realize that there's similar things that happen from a leadership standpoint, where I'm like, I'm not smart enough for that meeting. I'm not smart enough to be in with those people. Similar trains of thought that then you kind of just learn to get over that stuff, right? And like, you show up in yoga, and everybody's in a different, wherever they are in terms of their physicality, their strength, balance. I talk to guys that say, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible enough. And I always just kind of think that's funny, because
And
it's
women
like,
say that too.
right, because there's some sort of expectation that in order to do something, you have to be flexible. And I joke with people, it's like saying, well, I don't run marathons because I'm not in good enough shape, right? It's like you do it so that you get there. And it's a journey. You asked about a yoga journey. It's the journey of it all, which is, there's a starting point where I was too, where I'm not flexible, not strong, all that stuff. And then it unfolds over the course of time. But those improvements are incremental. But if you can kind of get over this whole notion that you can't do these things, or you're not strong enough or smart enough, whether it's work thing or whatever it is, and just show up as you are, realizing that it's all about the growth journey along the way. And that could be leadership, parenting, yoga, it all fits.
Yeah, I definitely think even as a leader, it's not like you come in as a leader.
Right.
You have to have some little steps to get there and some bumps, and, you know, maybe the first time you have to coach someone is not so fun, but you get through it and you get better, and maybe you do it a better way the next time going forward, learning and just getting kind of stronger in your confidence with those difficult situations too.
Right.
Well, and I think one of the themes from one of our earlier conversations was this idea that practice, it's a practice, not a perfect, and you could apply that, my guess is, to leadership too. For every year, if you're continuing to work on your leadership style, brand, and continuing to be in the work of a leader,
Yeah.
that also gets, you get stronger in that aspect, just the same way you get stronger in your physical yoga practice if you continue to practice pulling it all together.
I think that's really, like, that's an important part of it, because we tend to, I know I do this, I set an expectation of myself that I have to, in that moment, in that meeting, whatever that is, I gotta be perfect, right? Like, I gotta be really, really good. And then when you don't feel like you are, then it can be this thing, like I beat myself up. And I used to just absolutely beat myself up all the time about things from a work standpoint. I think that yoga has helped me realize that, because it is this kind of journey of growth and improvement along the way, that stop looking sort of backward at and regretting certain things. Just like, no, this is a part of it, and there are going to be some stumbles along the way, just like on your mat. Certain poses are going to be difficult, or you're going to maybe not feel like you're in as great a shape as you want to be, or your core isn't as strong as you want it to be. But then it keeps evolving if you keep practicing and doing it, but you just got to keep doing the thing, right? It's like getting to the mat and doing it is the only way that gets better and better, and you get stronger and stronger. It's just like leadership is that way too. You just keep doing it, even though you're not perfect at it.
And I think people around you appreciate that, you know, the whole vulnerability, and, you know, just people being more aware of kind of how they're feeling mentally now, I think is so much more out in the open.
Yeah.
And your colleagues and your employees appreciate if you screw up and say, I screwed up. Or if maybe if you didn't show up your best that day, you know, with all of us working from home, people are in sweatshirts and, you know, cats are running all over and kids. And I think we've all cut each other a lot more slack and sort of seeing people as people too.
Yeah, and seeing you in the work. But what I find interesting, Greg, in what you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's a lot of internal conversation going, oh gosh, that pose is hard and it's coming, I can't do this, or maybe I didn't nail that conversation or that meeting the way that I wanted to. All of it is so internally focused. And I have found, at least on my mat early on, I had teachers who would say, you know, don't look at everybody else, like stay focused on what's happening on your mat. And I find now that I'm a teacher, it is really hard to miss. There are sometimes I'm up in front of the class, I get so in my head because I know like, gosh, I will even say it now. I don't know how we got there before. I have no, like, and lose it, or I mix up my right and my left because I'm trying to and so like getting into the head, and how quickly getting in your own head can derail all of the progress. Yeah, no, that's a huge one, because that sort of self-assessment that can be triggered, they can go on and really take you, away from what you're really there to do, right? And I think yoga, the parts of it that are more meditative, where we're breathing in a certain way, we're looking in a certain way, and a lot of that's all designed to be able to shut out all the thought that can be the thinking that doesn't serve us very well, right? Whether we're teaching or we're actually practicing. But the getting out of, as we talk about with yoga, getting out of your head and into your body. Like for me, that's a big one, because I have had a tendency, I'm kind of hardwired to live in my head. That doesn't work well in leadership as well, right? Like the self-assessment and all of that. And then you just get into the flow of what you're doing,
whether it is whatever domain that might be.
Yeah.
And I think it's helped me with being able to really just let go of a lot of that stuff that doesn't really do a lot.
And go back to that phrase for a minute, what doesn't serve us, because doing yoga, we do hear it a lot.
Yeah.
But maybe tell everybody kind of what that means from a yoga perspective and how you might use that like in the workplace.
Yeah. So I think that, again, when you have some of this internal conversation going on of I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, the opportunity is there to kind of turn those into something that could serve you, because saying that is not going to be a very powerful experience for anybody when you're talking about the things you don't do well. So that can be that, hey, I'm currently not able to do that pose, or I'm currently not able to hold a meeting like I want to, or lead a meeting like I want to, but I'm going to keep practicing and working on it so that I can get better and better. It doing whatever that is a different frame to be in, that you're practicing for that sort of growth and improvement, instead of just beating yourself up about how you currently are in whatever it is that you're doing. Because look, we're all going around in the world being husbands, wives, parents, children, whatever that is, yoga teachers, yoga studio owners, leaders out in the workplace. And just being able to like feel okay showing up as you currently are in terms of your own knowledge, your capabilities, your weaknesses, all of that. Like yoga teaches you to, I've found it's taught me to just be like okay with how I show up. But I'm also working towards something, not just okay with it always being that way. That's why I'm in the practice of it and where the growth is.
So confidence is one thing. See, it's funny because I was actually thinking of external things like drama in the workplace.
Oh yeah.
Like or somebody said something and what's that making me
Oh, yeah,
think, or
yeah.
I took it the wrong way. Somebody texted something and it sounded harsh or something, and kind of not letting that stop me from doing what I need to do. Really, it's not really serving me or helping me be a better employee even.
I heard a phrase that was self-compassion is what happens when confidence leaves you. And that's the idea that confidence is really based on how others perceive us. They give us kudos, they say great job, right? And they affirm that what we're doing is on the right path. But as soon as we stop getting the positive affirmations from our external world, there is just a natural inclination for us to turn internally and going, well, why am I not getting that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the self-compassion steps up to the plate and says, it's okay. You may not need the external, right? You need to really be okay internally, but two, give grace to where you're at. And look how far you've come.
Well, and that's good. I'm glad you brought that up, Peggy, because there is like the external stimulus or those things that come at us that we can either misinterpret or view a certain way that also doesn't serve us. And you can see where I go, because I tend to go with internal with where I am with myself, right? But that, like yoga as a practice then of being able to say, breathe through certain things, like breathing we talk about that a lot in yoga, and I think people are like, what's all this stuff about breathing? But like literally in the moments where things are hard, difficult, stuff's coming at you, a pose is really difficult, a deadline at work, whatever that is, like really tapping into your breath and taking some breaths and just getting air moved through your system, your body, just physiologically, like really does something to calm the nervous system and allow you to be able to deal with things at a different level and not let that anxiety or whatever it is get to that sort of peak where it becomes destructive or doesn't serve us, I think is what.
And it can kind of do a reset. And anybody who knows me knows that I had a really stressful situation at work one time a few years ago and just left at lunch. Like I had so much work to do. I was overwhelmed. And what I did was I went home and I did like a 10-minute yoga and I prayed for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was the best investment of that time because it just
Yeah.
cleared everything and helped me prioritize and
Yeah.
realize that the world wasn't coming to an end and we would do the best we
Yeah.
could to get through it.
Yeah.
Well, and
You
when EMT or, emergency response teams show up and they've got somebody who is in that, threat stage or that emergency state, the first thing they tell them to is breathe.
Breathe, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the breath is amazingly healing and can sort of ground. So Greg, last question before we let you go.
Yeah.
We appreciated all of the time you've given to us and our
fun.
audience. What's a couple words of wisdom you would give the audience in terms of leadership that you have learned?
Wow. A couple words of wisdom on
Couple
leadership.
words of wisdom.
Lead strong. It's two.
Yeah. So again, my personal journey with this, I think informs me around this, which is to not take yourself so seriously, right?
Okay.
And that it's not about being perfect, right? Because I really, that's been a struggle for me. And yoga has really helped me with that. But if you can break from that feeling that you have to be perfect, and I think anybody who's in leadership or a parent or whatever circumstance you're in, like that is our society, I think, tells us a lot of times that we need to be perfect, but getting okay with it just being an ongoing practice in a journey, as you started the conversation with Courtney, of improvement and growth. And if you just keep at it, things will, I think you'll grow, and the growth will result in probably more peace and just really ultimately enjoying life a little bit more.
I think that's one thing too, people who don't do yoga, they picture this room with everybody doing everything perfect. And everybody being flexible. And one of the things though, there are times that we break out in laughter.
Yeah.
Like if you did the right leg sequence twice, we might, kind of in a funny way correct you or whatever.
Right. Or
you fall down in the middle of it and everybody, cracks up a little bit. So I think a lot of times they picture it being super serious too. And it's not always. And there's also such a variety of classes, like you really connected with the power classes. I kind of connect more with the vinyasa kind of classes. And then we've got friends who just do the yin and the meditative and more stretchy kind of classes. So you can't go to one class really and fairly judge it. You almost have to try different ones.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, just show up, right? Just
Yeah,
go,
that's it.
just go. And don't worry about it. There's so many different types of people doing yoga and so many different types of bodies and capabilities. And there's certain things after 8 years that I still can't do on a yoga mat because my body won't let me do it. Like I gotta be okay, unless I'm gonna go have surgery or something, which is probably not gonna happen.
That's a little extreme.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be extreme. So anyhow, I think it is just about showing up and it gets better and better.
Well, thanks for showing up here. The way we end is in the breath, which you kind of queued up for us.
All right.
Yeah.
So I will let Courtney do that since she's our
All right,
certified.
so we're gonna take
yogi.
our closing breath together. We're gonna inhale those arms up overhead. Inhale in, hands clasped, exhale down to heart center, bow the head to heart. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us this afternoon, Greg. And to all of our viewers out there, we say namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.